The Mavic 3, is it a good camera? Yes. Is it incredible? I don't know. I'm still playing around with it, but I do have a sample to show you, a couple samples actually, of the standard camera versus the zoom camera. I want to go through and show you a couple little tips and tricks that I've learned, and hopefully this is a little helpful to decide whether or not you should buy the Mavic. It is a wonderful piece of tech. I love flying it. It's a lot of fun. It's solid, it's stable. The photos are good, but they can be a little bit muddy. So let's take a look real quick. All right, so on my screen here, I'm in Photoshop. You're gonna take a look. Right here is the default standard, no zoom at all, Hasselblad photo, okay? So I'm just gonna blow through these real quick, and then I'm gonna go back and double back on them for you, okay? So we have this RAW. It's important to know that even if you set it at RAW, it's only for the standard photo. As soon as you start zooming in, you're gonna get JPEGs, okay? When you have the 7x optical zoom, then that's also a JPEG, but we'll get into that. All right, so you have your RAW photo here. It's optical, okay? And then you have 2x zoom. All right, you're gonna see that it starts to add its own little profile in. If you look real quick, this looks a little flatter. Here you can see that it kind of brings up the contrast a lot. Okay, so that's 2x zoom. Then we're gonna go into 4x zoom. That contrast really gets kind of blown up a bit. Then you have your 7x optical zoom. Okay, so this is really good. It is a JPEG. As soon as you enter that explore mode, it automatically defaults over to JPEG. And so it adds that profile to it. Unfortunately, it's still a good photo, especially for technical reasons. But if you're looking for more creative things, you kind of lose out on some of the capabilities. But let's keep on going. So that's 7x optical zoom. Then we go to 14x and 28x. And again, those are digital. So if you look here on the 28x, you'll see it kind of looks really muddy. It almost looks like you went into Photoshop and added an artistic brush to the artwork or to the photo to make it look more like artwork. It's not bad. It's especially if for whatever reason you can't get close in and you need to see is that antenna still have something connected there, or maybe those bricks. How do they look overall? Again, it's really muddy. It's not wonderful. But for technical reasons, for technical maybe inspections, it might be just what you need. And so I'm going to show you another sample in just a minute where that's really kind of key. It would come in clutch, honestly. So let's go back up to the first time. Okay, so this is by default, this is RAW. I haven't done any editing to this. There's no color profile. I haven't played around with it at all. This is straight out of the box. Okay, so one of the things I want to show you is you have the 2x digital zoom here. Okay, so that's 2x digital zoom. This is the one that has the profile baked in, right? So it gets a little sharper and you get that contrast. If instead of using 2x digital zoom, if you go and you take your RAW photo, your 1x, just straight out of the box, and then in post, expand it, right? So that you go 2x digital zoom. You're digital zooming in Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever program you're using. You get to keep that profile so it's flatter, and then you can throw on whatever photo adjustments you want, light adjustments, anything, right? You have a little more control, okay? Still, it's a digital zoom, but it's just after the fact, and you don't get that baked-in DJI mess. It's not bad. This isn't bad, honestly, but it's just not how I would like to go. But at the end of the day, if that's all you had, it's good. I just showed you if you took your RAW photo and zoomed it up to 2, so to see what it would look like. I wanted to show you what the difference would be between your 7x optical zoom and your 7x digital zoom in post if you took that RAW photo. This gets significantly worse, which is no big surprise. You're stretching those pixels a lot. As good as the photo is, it is better always to have optical zoom whenever you can. However, they still put in that baked in profile because it's a JPEG. So it does sharpen it. It does kind of muddy these trees a little bit. For technical purposes, it might just be what you need. So let's look at this other example. This is where I think this digital zoom comes in really, really clutch. The 7x still great, it's wonderful. But you'll see in a second here that 28x zoom, even though it gets muddy, is gonna show us some really good detail that we might need for inspections. Here you go, I'm just gonna blow through these. You have the 1x optical zoom. Okay, then you have your 2x digital, and there's your 4x digital, and there's your 7x optical. Now you're starting to be able to see that there's a ladder in here, and you can start to see that there's some writing on the bricks. You can also see how kind of terribly messed up this is. This needs a lot of work. This whole building was condemned. The roof was all collapsed in, and I mean, there's no surprise that this needs some work done on it. But you have your 14x digital zoom there. You can still, even though it gets a little muddy, you're able to see things clearly enough that if it was a technical thing where they needed to know, hey, is that ladder still intact up there? You could see, yes, it is there, but there's some cracking here that probably is not super solid. And maybe, I don't know what the letters mean and the numbers here, the B12 or the B22, maybe that makes a difference. Maybe they'd say, oh, those are B12 bricks. We need to have some more B12 bricks to fix that. I don't know. I'm not a mason, but it might be one of those things where popping your drone up and being able to get in there with that digital zoom or the 7x optical zoom could be the thing that saves a lot of time and liability. And that really is where the commercial drone pilot adds a ton of value. Now, you might say, well, why not just get in real close with your standard? And if you can, that's great. It's a little hard to see here, but there's right down here, there's a tree that's not too far away. And if I was to try to get down a little bit closer, I wouldn't be able to safely. Maybe in the example for you, it's an active smokestack. You don't want to get too close to it because of the heat that's coming out. Your drone, the propellers might melt, or there's air coming out, so it's going to cause updrafts, all sorts of things. So there's a lot of reasons why you need to be able to stay away from things a lot of times and be able to zoom in. Is it a great creative camera with these digital zooms or even the optical zoom? No. You could be creative to make these things creatively wonderful, but at the end of the day, I see this more as a technical advantage than a creative advantage. But just like anything, it's about the photographer behind the camera, not the actual camera itself. So what do you think? Do you think this is a good camera or not? What are your experiences with it? Would you like to see RAW as part of the Explore mode? Go out there, fly, be safe. As always, be good to each other.